Cardano price down. I think the question in a lot of people's mind, how bad is this? Or how bad is this going to get? I have a pretty clear idea in my mind of what could happen here. And I want to try in this video to display that, visualize that on the screen, on the charts. A kind of a worst case scenario for Cardano. That does not mean I think that is what is going to happen. So let me just say that right off the bat. And kind of the precursor to all of this is what's happening right now. Not only are we in this crypto winter trying to pivot to that bull market eventually, but the SEC, everything the SEC is doing, and especially in relation to Cardano ADA, how it's being mentioned here, and what is happening with headlines like this, Robinhood planning to delist. There is probably a large concern in the mind of ADA holders, rightfully so, but I really want to put things into perspective here and just objectively look at the situation and even take other historical context and data of similar scenarios and apply it to Cardano. So before we even look at the charts and look at scenarios, I want to mention this. This is a chief legal officer at Ripple in response to the SEC recently. The allegations in these suits are just that, unproved. The SEC, despite what Chair Gensler pretends, does not have a magic regulatory wand that it can just wave and say tokens are securities. Looking forward to how the courts and Congress will take this. So that's just it, everybody. Just because the SEC is doing what they're doing, and mind you, a ton of people in Congress and throughout the crypto industry and throughout the world disagree with SEC's approach here. Despite what they're saying, it just doesn't make it so because they say it. This has to go through a certain system. That's number one, right? So this isn't saying that, hey, ADA is a security, it's game over for ADA as a crypto. That's not where we are right now. Now, I think there's many different concerns for ADA holders and crypto holders, everybody all around in crypto space. I think this is probably the biggest one. I could be wrong, but I think this is the concern. As you remember, from this headline, Coinbase will suspend trading in XRP on January 19th. This was a headline from December 28th, 2020. This happened years ago. I think that's kind of a major concern. Man, what if Coinbase and all these exchanges just delist ADA? I'm going to look at the charts and kind of try and set up this scenario where something like that happens. And even though I'm going to do that, I just want to say, I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I absolutely don't think. We are in a different time and environment than 2020. And let me use Brian Armstrong and his tweet in relation to the SEC complaint and his response to kind of lay out my case here. Two things stood out to me. He said, in case it's not obvious, the Coinbase suit is very different from others out there. The complaint filed against us is exclusively focused on what is or is not a security. And we are confident in our facts and the law. We'll get the job done. In the meantime, let's all keep moving forward and building as an industry. America will get this right in the end. Two things stood out to me there. We are confident in our facts and in the law. Coinbase, they're on the offense now. It's different than when they delisted XRP years ago. They were kind of more on the defense and getting things together. They are on the offense now. And they are very confident in their position, in what they're doing and how they're running their business. And that's based off of even things the SEC has done. That's number one. They're in a different position now. I don't think it would be a good look. I think it might actually weaken their position if they start delisting cryptos like ADA. Number two is, he said, we'll get the job done. In the meantime, let's keep moving forward and building as an industry. For me, that just kind of reads as, let's just keep going, business as usual. Let's get this worked out in court. You know, we're going to fight, but business as usual. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. And again, this is my speculation. This is just how I see the situation. I could be 100% wrong. And maybe they do delist it. I don't know. And lastly, Brian Armstrong actually retweeted this thread, breakdown of the SEC Coinbase complaint. Just 2 points I just want to bring up real quick in this video. Scrolling down to this part where Adam Cochran says, specifically picks assets that had ICOs and tries to frame that as those assets intrinsically always being securities, not something that is clear set in Howey or Reeves. Now, not only what he is saying, but something I mentioned in a previous video and something a lot of people are just kind of talking about across the crypto space and in Cardano. ADA wasn't even offered to US investors. ADA was offered in its ICO through Japan. So that's number one. And then number two is gives a list of assets that deemed to be securities, all without having filed actions against these tokens, having it decided in court or giving them a chance to defend themselves. So that kind of speaks to the weakness in the SEC's position. And I wanted to kind of underline that as well as we go into this. Now, let's talk about this though. Let's look at the ADA charts and let's say how bad can this be, right? And before we even talk about all of the things that are happening right now and how it ties into the Cardano charts, I want to revisit a time not long ago. I mean, this was 8 days ago where none of this was even happening just yet. And check this. If ADA is to fall more, we have ADA falling to right around potentially a 32 to 28 cent ADA, right? Without all the SEC fears, without everything going on right now, we had ADA, the potential for this to happen. Cardano just to fall, right? For ADA not to diverge from kind of a similar move that it was doing here. Remember, we were tracking this and it fell there. We were looking for ADA to consolidate and just break out, and it didn't. The scenario for ADA would be to fall to test this area of support. Now, there are two areas of support. This is a kind of a more macro area. It's not guaranteed to hold, but that macro area is very much just the swing low of the bear market to the swing high. And it's just this Fibonacci, this higher low Fibonacci, the 618 right around 32 cents. ADA is right above there right now. The 786 right around 28 cents. My point being, and then we're going to look at a really bad case scenario for ADA if all of this falls. My point being, headlines trigger these moves to these supports. In this case, right now, it seems like this SEC news and the move and the fear that's in ADA right now is triggering this move. I'm going to monitor this support in the same way that I was kind of monitoring the possibility of it back here 8 days ago. That's number one. These moves happen all the time. And if you just zoom out on a weekly chart, you can just see red candles everywhere, everybody. Bull and bear markets, red candles everywhere. Now, let's talk about this scenario where, we see Robinhood planning to delist ADA. Here's Coinbase article giving us those vibes, reminding us, man, XRP got delisted. When that news came out for XRP, let's just break it down. Let's just take, and this isn't because it's exactly how it would play out, but let's kind of take this scenario. XRP got delisted from Coinbase, and this was kind of how it reacted. 70% fall, right? And let me just say, this was right as the bull market was starting. And let me also just point out, not going to spend too much time on this, but XRP then pumped 1,000%, right? Let me just point those two things out. But 70% to the downside, basically off of that news, XRP, I mean, that was a pretty big capitulation right there when that news broke. Let's just take 70% from the beginning of this downtrend for ADA, and let's just look at it, right? What more can we do? And this isn't because it's exactly how it would happen. I'm not sitting here saying I think this is how it's going to happen. But you all know in my videos, I always say crypto could fail. Crypto could go to zero. It's that extreme worst case scenario. We always have the extreme worst, extreme best. Crypto could fail and go to zero. And that's how I manage my risk. And this is just my approach and how I see things. But if you have these extreme scenarios in your mind at all time, and you look at the current situation that you're in, the position that you're in, the portfolio that you're in, I think it's a lot easier just to make decisions. Am I comfortable with my exposure? And that's what I do. This is one of those exercises. If ADA fell 70% similar to XRP, could this be a capitulation type of environment for ADA in this bear market? And at the end of this bear market, potentially, would it bounce here at 11 or 10 cents? Nobody knows. And I can't say if it would or wouldn't. But I think it's interesting to reflect that XRP chart onto the Cardano chart and say, hey, you know what? If things just got crazy and everybody's just delisting ADA and Coinbase just gets on board and delists ADA, which again, as I mentioned, I don't really think it's going to. Is this what's in play, right? And look at that move, right? Even on the macro, And I'm not trying to put hopium out there at all, but like in my mind, and I'm not trying to tell everybody, yo, get ready to buy this, get ready, there's opportunity here. But in my mind, I think it's funny that I sit back and I'm kind of like, man, what kind of buys would I personally be putting in to take advantage of that opportunity in that insanely high fear environment if it happens? But that's a higher low on this macro. This is the COVID swing low. This is the last bear market low. This would put ADA at such an undervalued, it's already undervalued in my opinion. This would put ADA at such an undervalued price. It's unbelievable. But amidst all of this fear, I thought it would be a good exercise to kind of just visualize that real quick and just say, hey, you know what? Worst case scenario, that's what I'm looking at. But at the end of the day, I'll say this, and I think this might be more important. Put aside everything that's going on with SEC right now. If people forget about this in a week or 2 weeks, and this chart just continues consolidating like it's been doing, like we were just tracking back here in this video, right? I mean, this is probably not even in play in that scenario. And at that moment, we would be tracking just the support we were looking for in that video, right? Support down to 28 cents. That's kind of where I am right now. I'm trying to put aside what's happening with the SEC, and I'm just trying to look at charts, stick with the technicals, because that's where we put emotion aside. I'm trying to just realize and remind myself, look, ADA is falling into oversold territory on the daily. When that happens, it's time to pay attention to this. Last time ADA fell into oversold, you can just see it was bottoming out and got ready to pump, right? So pump right into overbought, and we're looking at that was 70-some% gains. This could flip so quick to a bullish scenario, and I'm not saying that's definitely what's going to happen, but I think we just got to play this day by day as Cardano's falling. Cardano's falling right now as I do this video. And this is just what I'm going to be doing. Putting emotion aside, reminding myself of what we've been tracking anyway, which is higher low environments. Maybe they fall, maybe they fail. Maybe this swing low back here at 24 cents gets tested in the short term. And in that case, we evaluate as we go. But this is just how I see things, everybody. This isn't me saying, everything's going to be okay. This isn't me saying everything's going to completely fall. But we have to take each day and each headline a step at a time. Because at the end of the day, again, if you zoom out on a Cardano chart, you can't even really see what's happening right now. It just looks like so commonplace to bear and bull markets. What's happening right now? It doesn't even look out of place. So those are my thoughts today on Cardano and what's going on. We're going to continue monitoring it. All I can say is be very careful. I really encourage you to be careful out there, to try and manage your risks and your exposure to these markets in the best way that you can. I'm just kind of sharing my journey and how I do that. And a big piece of that is visualization. So let's continue seeing what happens, how this will play out. I appreciate all of you. Please hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.